Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about the stuff in front of me, which happens to be a brand new Sega Dreamcast game called FX Unit Yuki, the Henshin Engine. So that's super brand new. You probably have actually heard of it a little bit if you're into the Dreamcast. The game's been out for a little while. Unfortunately, this is the earliest I had a chance to do anything on it. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in front of me for just one game. Now, there's a reason for that. This game is kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting throwback to the older model of how to put games on the Dreamcast. So for those who don't know, the Sega Dreamcast, I know you guys are tired of me saying this, but the Sega Dreamcast, my favorite game console of all time, still gets brand new games every once in a while. But they're not made by big companies like Sega or anything like that. They're made by independent developers and publishers. Traditionally, there's like two models on how to do this. There's either a publisher or developer who has a passion for the console and decides, hey, I'm going to make a game for it. Or there's people who decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a game for whatever reason, and then I'm going to put it on the Dreamcast just so it's on more platforms. Then there's, of course, the JoshProd model, which is totally different, where that guy just goes around buying up franchises and deciding, hey, I'm going to pay the money and port it to the Dreamcast. And good on him for doing that. It's eccentric. It's awesome. This game falls more into the second category. So this game actually was a passion project developed for the PC Engine CD, or TurboGrafx CD. Now, it was done by Sarumaru, aka DJ Medina. I believe, I know he was at least like a producer on it. I don't know if he was actually a developer. I'm not entirely certain what his role was, but I know he was at least very much the face of it, or in control of it to an extent. So I actually met him once at Portland Retro Game Expo in 2018. He gave me this. This is a demo disc version of the game for PC Engine CD. Now, unfortunately, I was never able to use it because A, at the time I didn't have a PC Engine CD, and B, now that I do, mine still doesn't work. But it's thank you to him again for doing that. But the game also existed on Kickstarter, and that's of course where I funded it, and through that you would end up with a Dreamcast version. So like I said, there's basically that second model. They had a passion for making this game specifically for the PC Engine CD, but they were willing to put it on other platforms. So that's why I backed it, and finally that version of the game is here. So I'm going to open it up and show it to you guys. And we'll take a look at it real quick here. And then there's also some other versions, as you can see right there on the table, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's take this out of here, nothing there. And then inside this, rip it inside, we've got a few different things. We've got, oh, I didn't expect that. We have game sticker, let's make sure there's nothing else in here. No, okay. So, what we have here is the game. This is specifically the Kickstarter edition of the game, or at least I should say the Sarumaru edition, or Saru Pro, as I guess they want to be called, edition of the game, which we'll get back to that point in a minute. And then there's also what looks to be like a sticker there. And on top of that, and I had completely forgotten about this, if this was ever a thing, I didn't know, they did a music CD with it. Looks like it has 21 tracks of music available, and that's pretty cool. Nice bonus music CD. I have to admit, I completely forgot that was ever going to be a thing. So it's cool to have a new Dreamcast game, but then you're looking at the stuff on the table. Well, there's a story to that. First, understand that obviously I really love the Dreamcast, and Sarumaru is not unaware of this. For those who don't know, back in the day when Sega would make a game, or any major developer would make a game for the Dreamcast, they would, in the prototype phase, they would put their games onto what are known as GDRs. Now, the final format of a Dreamcast game was a GD-ROM, not to be confused with a GDR. A GDR was gigabyte disk recordable. It was only meant for internal purposes, for internal testing. You actually have one and try to use it on a normal Dreamcast, it won't function without a proprietary boot disk. A very specific boot disk called System Disk 2. Anyway, so those prototype disks, sometimes they would be the complete version of the game, sometimes they weren't, but whatever, those disks, they had a very specific look to them. And Sarumaru and his team decided to make their prototype versions of the game, or final versions of the game, but for prototype purposes or final testing purposes, just for amusement's sake perhaps, make them look like GDRs, which is what this is. So this is, apparently what they did is they made 4 of these. This disc just happens to look like one of those prototype discs. There's nothing actually special about it. It's actually on a CDR, again, compact disc recordable as opposed to CD-ROM. Or GD-ROM in this case, but yes, this is recorded through a CD burner. This particular one, and it's given this custom art label. Now again, there were 4 of these at one point. The first one was sent off to the Dreamcast junkyard for their use. The second one was actually sent off to the factory where the game was ultimately pressed on discs, and we'll get back to that in a second. The third one was sent to me, and the fourth one was meant to be retained by Sarumaru. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen that way. So they sent me the third one, and it never arrived. And we waited a couple of months, and it never showed up. And I talked to him, and I was like, hey, man, this is awkward, but that disc never showed up. I'm sorry. You know, like, I wasn't expecting any sort of replacement. I just wanted to let him know the bad news that it wasn't around. And he said, oh, well, let's take care of it. He decided to send me the fourth one, which I told him, don't do that, because, you know, like, that's part of your history. You know what I mean? Like, you should keep that. And he was very insistent. So I do have it, thank you. But if he ever changes his mind, it's his in a heartbeat. Like, he can just ask for it back. I'll give it back to him, no problem. Because, dude, you made this. It's a piece of your history. You should have held on to it. But still, I'm not unappreciative. Thank you very much for that. But that said, he also included a bunch of stuff at the time, some pins, some more stickers and cards and things like that came with it, which was a nice bonus. But on top of that, as I mentioned, I did talk about JoshProd there for a second. JoshProd is eccentric. So despite the fact that this game obviously came out and had its own release, self-published, JoshProd got in there and obviously cut a deal with them, and there's a JoshProd edition of the game. Now, this version of it happens to be sold at Videogames New York, so thank you to Dan at Videogames New York for hooking me up with this. But yeah, so these are exactly the same game. They just have different artwork depending on where you want to get it from, whether it's the original developer and publisher, or if you want to get it distributed through Videogames New York and JoshProd specifically. So take your pick, but it's the exact same thing. Now, sometimes people ask this question, like, you know, was there going to be compatibility issues? Was it just burned on a CDR? No. This one, like I said, that's a unique case. That one's like a prototype type of disc. The final versions of these things are always printed on, they're always pressed in factories with, like, legitimate artwork and all that kind of stuff. They're not, you know, like just some dude, like, burned it on with a CDR and a Sharpie and wrote down the name of, like, what the game was. It's not like that. The games are always region-free and stuff like that, and they have generally VGA support, and we'll take a look at the actual gameplay in a minute, but I want to kind of show you guys the innards here. Problem, of course, is that getting into the disc case can be difficult because this plastic wrap is always the worst. Let's see if I can get through it. We got one here. This is the, again, this is the version that I got on Kickstarter. We'll take a look here in a second. All right, we got past its shielding. almost. Okay. So there we go. There's the front. Ooh, and inside, yeah, this one, like I said, I can tell immediately just looking at it. This is pressed on a disc. It's got reversible artwork, and it has nice back inlay there. The disc itself looks very good. The reversible artwork has, this is becoming more of a standard thing. It's Japanese artwork on one side and American artwork on the other. The Japanese, it is all... yeah, it's all the same. It's just which cover you like better. I traditionally leave the stuff on the American style just cause, but in this case I think I will go with, no, I'm going to keep it with the American style. I kind of like looking at it that way. But yeah, very cool. So now that's what it looks like. And then it has Japanese on the spine and English on the other spine, so you can always find it in your library depending on which language you speak. Let's take a quick look, if we can, time permitting, at the other little goodies that came with it. We'll get to the music CD and again. Man, it's not fun to have to open 3 of these things. Maybe I should have opened in advance, but don't you like it? It's all very impromptu. Okay, so we got past some of it, and we're gonna get to the final version of the disc here in a second. Okay, getting the case off. Okay, front of the case. And inside, yeah, so their disc is different, which, again, as expected. The artwork in the back is different. The disc itself is different. It follows more of the way JoshProd has been doing his. He did it differently than them. He usually makes the instruction booklets very flippable, so that the entire thing is reversed as opposed to just one page of it. I'm wondering if he did that here. So yeah, inside. The inside is exactly the same. Exactly the same. The only difference is the artwork is flipped that way, as opposed to this one where it's just flipped this way. But yeah, again, I'm going to stick with the American style artwork there, which I typically prefer. But yeah, same basic thing. So that's definitely cool. And then I guess let's just take a look at the music CD, because why not? And then after that, we'll take a look at some gameplay, of course. But inside the music CD, which I like the art style of the music CD. It's meant to replicate a PC Engine CD game, which is neat. And opening up inside, this one is, let's see, this one is also pressed on a CD. So even on the music CD, they didn't cheap out. They didn't just use some CDRs, which is pretty cool. And then it's got a whole thing about their composer, which is nice. Yeah, very cool. I honestly had completely forgotten that it was going to come with any sort of music CD, but that's a nice bonus.
Hey, and we're rolling here. It is time to play some FX Yuki Unit, the Henshin Engine. Okay, so a few things. First, I like this game, like straight off the bat. I really liked how it was it's a platformer, and we'll talk more about that in a second. I did notice one thing right there. He's giving you little tutorials, and he's like, oh, you press B to do this and A to do this, and it's actually not correct. It's actually the other way around on the Dreamcast controller. So I can't help but wonder if the text was printed out possibly for the PC Engine, although I was pretty sure that console used a 1 and a 2 system. But either way, the A and B thing was wrong. Not that that's like a big deal. It's easy to fix and figure out, but it was just kind of funny to notice. Now, I took the time to cut out a bunch of stuff because there's a long intro to this game, a story bit that I'll basically summarize. It's got some, like, I guess you'd call them anime-like clips of this girl who you are playing as, and she was more of a normal like person, and she was like she's a self-proclaimed gamer. And she decides to get a job over at this video game company that's clearly supposed to be NEC, because I think it's like JEC, and she wants to go test out their new game or system, the Henshin Engine. So she heads over to this company and gets a job there, and then she accidentally checks out this prototype thing that sucks her into the game, and she gets like upgraded and has like superpowers or whatever, which is anime type of thing. It's just kind of a funny premise. But anyway, so she gets into the video game, and they're like, well, okay, I guess test the game out. And so she's like playing the game in real life here. Now, I didn't include any of these like cutscenes or anything, just because they take a lot of time, and I figured people are more interested in seeing the gameplay side of things. But the story in of itself is relatively amusing. It actually has a few other aspects. Like after this point, you find out there's a rival company called like SG Corp or something, and it's clearly supposed to be Sega, and they're creating the Mega Gen product. And like there's a girl who's all like super fitted to look like basically like a Mega Drive or a Sega Genesis, which I thought was kind of funny, especially considering the fact that you are playing this on Sega hardware, at least this particular version. Obviously, again, this game was made for the PC Engine CD, so this game is very much a love letter to that platform. It just happens to end up on the Dreamcast, so keep that in mind, which is pretty cool. But this game, if you guys saw my previous Keep Dreaming episode about a new game, it was a game called Finding Teddy, and like that game was fine. It's a point and click thing. If you like point and clicks, that's cool. But I kept saying like, JoshProd, man, hook me up with some new platformers. Now, technically, JoshProd didn't make this, although, like I said, there is that JoshProd version. But this game is a platformer. This is a traditional 2D platformer. As you can see, I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do here. I do eventually figure it out. But JEC, you're clearly supposed to be NEC. But yeah, so I liked this game a lot. I ended up playing this way longer than I ended up recording footage for, just because I missed this, the traditional like good 2D type of platformer. And I know you're like face palming hard, but I had no idea what I was supposed to do until I realized you're supposed to supercharge and then like fire through it, because it just said use your power up, but I didn't know what it meant by that. So now I know. See, there you go. But yeah, so pretty cool game. If you're interested in checking it out, I would recommend going over. I'll put links in the description. You can get the JoshProd version at Videogames New York. I'll put a link there. And then I'm pretty sure you can still get the Sarumaru, I keep calling it that, the Sarumaru edition. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but I'll put a link to their website as well, so you can check that out, just, in case you're curious. But I will show you basically 2 levels worth of gameplay. There's this one, and there will be another one in a moment. But like I said, I cut out the story bits just so you guys can see maximum amount of gameplay along the way. And yeah, so that's how that stage ends. Oh, and one other thing that's cool about this, and I don't remember if I cut it out or not, but after you complete a stage, it gives you a code. No, I cut that out. It gives you a code, and that code is basically a level skip function. So very, very much a throwback game. This game is very much a love letter to platformers of the time. Obviously, specifically with the PC Engine and TurboGrafx, or PC Engine CD and TurboGrafx CD, really meant and put into their heart. Like that's what they meant for it. But the Dreamcast had the lucky benefit of being able to get this game, which I think is pretty neat. So again, if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description. And if you guys could do me a favor, please, I hate saying this, but please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Social media things are in the description: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, all that stuff. If you guys could check it out, I appreciate the support. And I will catch up with you guys at the end of the video. So just enjoy the gameplay and the music from here on out. Haha, see? This is Jenny, the Ultra Drive from the SG company. I wonder if that's meant to be based on anything. I'm not gonna lie, I legit had no idea what I was supposed to do here. I guess I was actually inflicting damage, but I thought like this maybe was supposed to be almost unwinnable. I really didn't know if they were like going for a point here, but eventually it does conclude successfully, so yay. But yeah, so that pretty much will do it here. I give you guys an appetizer of this game. Again, if you want to check it out, links in the description to where to get it. And thank you guys very much for watching. Again, please comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Check the social media stuff. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all later.